You may not know Tom McComas' name, but chances are you've seen him. Simply put, he's a bona fide stuntman who's been in some huge movies like Armageddon, Paycheck, The Dark Knight, Sum of All Fears, as well as quite a few music videos and commercials, too. Tom's successful career is thanks in no small part to his love of motorcycling, which started on the streets of Chicago, then graduated to the racetrack, and finally the silver screen. The most interesting part about Tom is that you can't tell him he can't do something. Whether he's cutting off the lock his parents put on his first motorcycle, staying up all night to get his bike race ready, hustling movie sets every day for 2 years just to get into the stunt world, or even trying to wheelie a Vespa, he's gonna figure out a way to do what he wants to do. And all of Tom's hard work and ingenuity has paid off. Not only does he get paid to do what he loves, he's got a seriously nice collection of motorcycles and a heck of a collection of stories. This is Tom McComas. I'm your host, Mark Long, and you're listening to Driven to Ride. All right, Tom McComas, you were on Driven to Ride. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like, we were talking a little bit earlier. We met a couple years ago at CODA, and when I learned about what you do, I had to learn more. So here we are, and I'm super stoked to jump in. But I want to give you the floor and let you kind of say in your own words what maybe most people would know you for, maybe what your claim, or in your case, claims multiple to fame you have.
Well, I wanted to be a professional motorcycle racer. I grew up in Chicago, and there's no dirt in Chicago, so street bike was the only option. There was a Northwestern student who lived about a block away from me, and he had a Yamaha 79 Yamaha Enduro 125. And I'd sit on the curb and just watch him work on the wrench on that. And I had a car wash independent of that. And one day he came home and he's like, Tom, as I'm sitting there staring at his motorcycle, he's like, Tom, do you want to buy the motorcycle? I was like, how much? He's like, $300. I was like, hold on. I ran home, went in my shoebox, grabbed $300, ran back there, stuffed the $300 in his face, and he gave me the key to this 79 Yamaha Enduro 125. And that's how it started. You know, my mom actually used to give me a ride to high school. And I was like, Mom, you know what? I'm going to take the bus and the L. I'll be fine. And she was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And so I went and would walk down the alley, and I had a friend's house that I could hide it in his garage, get on the thing and ride to high school. And so that's how my passion for motorcycles started. And then, and I started racing in college. I started road racing at Willow Springs International Raceway, and got bit by the bug hard, and raced through college, and then wound up racing for 6 years total. And then I found out that you could get paid to crash, and I was really good at crashing. So I was like, let's do it. And then I got into stunts, and here we are.
Nice. Yeah. So, you're a stunt guy, stunt coordinator, all over Hollywood and stuff like that. How do you make that jump from racing into stunt? I mean, can you just walk into a studio and be like, I want to be a stuntman, I can crash real good, and they sign you up? Or
It's a great question. The system is kind of designed to keep people out. And I didn't even really know when I was a little kid what stuntmen were. But then as I grew up, I kind of figured it out after I read this book called What Color is Your Parachute? And if I was going to write the Cliff Notes, it would say, figure out what you like to do and find out a way to get paid doing it. And I was sitting in this office in Beverly Hills. I wound up getting a job at William Morris as an assistant to a motion picture literary agent. Long story, but we don't need to get into that. And I read this book, and I said, stuntman, I'm not afraid to fall down. I like to fight. Let's go. And so the next few days, one day my boss came in, and he said, Tom, I think you'd be a great agent, but you're not a very good assistant. And I said, are you promoting me or are you firing me? He goes, I'm not making you an agent. And so at that moment, and then he said, so Tom, I'll help you try to get your next job. What do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a stuntman. And he said, what? I said, that's what I want to do. And because most people that are assistants at William Morris come from Ivy League schools, and they kind of have wealthy families, and it doesn't matter how much they make in as assistant. They just want to be an agent and all that. And I sat in that office and I watched him work the phones, and how lousy a life to me it was. I didn't want to be stuck in an office on the phone. So he's like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a stuntman. He said, I know one person, and I'll introduce you to him, and then it's up to you. I said, that's more than I can ask for. And the guy's name was Johnny C. He was a New York stuntman. And he was the only person that my agent would allow me to let the phone call through. Like whenever anyone called, they'd say, Jim Crabb's office. And they'd say, is Jim in? And I said, no, I'm sorry, he's unavailable. Can I take a message? But if Johnny C called, he was the one person that got through. I never fully found out why, but Jim Crabb, the only guy that would get through was Johnny C. And he told me about Screen Actors Guild. You have to be a member of the Screen Actors Guild, which is the actors union. You have to be a member of that. That's the first obstacle. And then you get your SAG card. I got it through Extra Work. And then he taught Johnny C taught me about hustling, which is I would go to the LA film office, and every day at 8 a.m. they would print out the shoot sheet. I don't know if they still do it after 9/11, but back in the day, it would have every production listed that was permitted to shoot in the county of Los Angeles. It would say like Baywatch Productions, Dockweiler Beach. And so about 5 or 6 other stuntmen and aspiring stuntmen and I would meet at a calling service, which is what you used to have when a stuntman when a stunt coordinator needed a stuntman, he would call the service, a calling service. In this case, it was called Bill's Service. And he would tell Bill, hey, Bill, I need 6 guys on Tuesday to, do a fight. And so Bill would call 6 of his clients, and then that's how. And so we would meet at Bill's and we'd exchange information. So you pull out your Thomas guide and we would plot, like a circular map around Los Angeles. And you go to these, like I would go from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. I would just hustle sets. My budget for living was $5 a day. I had a 99-cent Whopper for breakfast. It was $1.07 with tax. And then I'd have another one for dinner. And so my food budget was $2.14 a day. And the other $2.86 I'd put in my gas tank of my motorcycle and go to sets. And the whole thing about hustling was you try to sneak on a set and you try to figure out where the stunt coordinator was and find him and approach him at an appropriate time, because when he's talking to the director, that's probably not the best time to interrupt the conversation and introduce yourself. So this is called hustling, and it's still done today. I just don't have to do it as much as I used to. But you go introduce yourself to the stunt coordinator and you say, hey, my name's Tom McComas. I would like to work for you. Would you mind if I left a resume for you in your office, in your honey wagon? And so that was hustling, and I did that all day long, every day for a couple of years. And I would run into stuntmen who would say on a Friday, he'd say, Tom, I've seen you on 5. This is the 5th set I've seen you on this week. He goes, why do you hustle so much? And I go, because I want to work. And through hustling, that's how I got my first job on Baywatch, doubling David Hasselhoff. The regular stunt double got hurt. And so Greg Barnett, the stunt coordinator of Baywatch, I was in a movie theater, and back then we had pagers.
Oh, okay.
And I got a page in this movie theater. And I looked at the number. It was a 714 number, which is Orange County, which is kind of a wealthier suburb of Los Angeles. And I looked at it, and you kind of had to debate whether you were going to return the call or not, because sometimes you could tell they were bogus calls. And so something made me get up out of the movie theater, and then I had to go to the concession stand and buy something I didn't need because I needed change for the payphone because we didn't have cell phones. And so I called this guy. I called this number. I'm like, this is Tom. And he goes, Tom, how would you like to work tomorrow? And Greg Barnett is a great guy and a very religious man and does not swear at all. And I was like, who the F is this? He's like, Tom, it's Greg Barnett. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Barnett. Like, I apologize. I would love to work tomorrow. And so that was my first day on a TV. I had hustled him previously many times. And he knew since I had played football that the stunt was tackling a bad guy. And so he figured since I played football and I was the same size as Hasselhoff, that I'd make a good double for him. I could fill in for the regular double. So that was my first break. That was my big break, doubling Hasselhoff on Baywatch.
Huh. That's wild, man. That's super wild.
That's how it works. And then to get a SAG card, you got to do extra work. And actually the movie was called Blade at the time. And they had an open casting call, and there were like 1,000 people on the street just standing in line waiting to get in. And this guy walks by and he goes, come with me. I'm like, okay. And he pulled about 5 or 6 of us apart. He's like, we're going to make you a club goer, and you're going to get model rate, And so instead of $86 a day, we got like $148 a day. And it was, the important thing was it was a set. You could work non-union or union as an extra. And in this case, he hired me as a union extra. So I worked 3 days and got 3 SAG vouchers, which are the receipts for working those days. And those 3 days made me eligible to join the union. And then with that, I could hustle sets and say I was SAG and I could work. And that's how Greg Barnett called me for Baywatch.
Man, so you really like paid your dues, came from the bottom and worked your way up, man.
I mean, for 2 years, I hustled from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and lived on literally $5 a day. And people were like, you're so lucky. And because then my next big break was a movie called Armageddon. And
oh, sure. Little flick, from the 90s. Yeah.
Just a little low budget feature, which happened to be the biggest film in Hollywood at the time. And I would meet those guys in the morning and we would all talk about the different projects that we're shooting. And they're like, oh, don't bother hustling Armageddon. They're only looking for doubles. And I thought to myself, somebody's got to double the actors in the thing. And I didn't know who Ben Affleck was at the time. But I went there. It was on a Sunday, and I actually had ridden in that morning. So I had my leathers on, and I tied them around my waist. And I didn't even know, like, there was an etiquette to hustling. And kind of you're supposed to put a button-down shirt on, some really khakis or something, and look like a businessman, look presentable. And I didn't know anyone in Hollywood, so I didn't know the unwritten rules of what you're supposed to do. I learned by doing things wrong. and finding out that it was wrong. So in this case, the stuntmen that were working on Armageddon saw me looking for the stunt coordinator, Kenny Bates. And they were like, yeah, who's this guy trying to pretend like he's a stuntman working on the movie? Like, so they told Kenny Bates, who was a stunt coordinator. And Kenny's like, hey, if you ever see this guy, make sure you don't let me hire him. And so this was all unbeknownst to me. This was all going on. I had no idea.
Sure.
His assistant came along and I was looking, she's like, are you looking for Kenny? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, okay, well, here's what you're going to do. We're going to have on Tuesday, we're going to have several stuntmen show up at 10 o'clock, and we're going to have Ben Affleck, the actor who I think you look like, come out of the trailer, and he's going to stand next to you guys, and we're going to pick a double. And so this is like the best information you could ever possibly hear. And he's like, just get out of here now because your outfit it's not a good thing right now. So I'm like, copy that. So I hightailed it out of there, jumped on my motorcycle and left, came back on Tuesday, and they had all of us. There's about 8 guys line a lineup standing outside the hair and makeup trailer. And Ben came out and he stood next to us, and Kenny Bates, the stunt coordinator, goes, Tom looks the most like him, but Chris Durand, his body is shaped much more like Ben's. So we're going to go with Chris. And so I could not have been more dejected in my life.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was a huge movie and it would have been a giant break. And so I'm just depressed as you can imagine. And then Michael Bay, the director, goes, Kenny, come over here for a second. And so they go over and they have a little powwow. And then I hear Michael Bay yell, I want the guy that looks like him. And so
not bad.
I perked up a little bit. And Kenny Bates and Michael Bay came back over to the group. And they go, okay, Chris, we're going to use you to double somebody else. And Tom, you're going to be the Affleck double. And so that was probably, like, at that time in my life, that was the best thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's super cool. It sounds like you still had a motorcycle. You were still riding at that time too?
When I moved out to California, when I finished racing in 95, I moved out to California in 96. When I first moved out to California, I had an 89 GSXR 750 and an 86 FZ 750 when I moved out to go to Santa Barbara. And then after years of racing, I had an FZR 1000. I had an FZR 1000. And nice. I actually would ride that from Chicago to Santa Barbara in the fall, in the fall for school, and then have it in school and then ride it back in the spring.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say coming from Chicago where it's cold and crappy winters and stuff like that. And the riding season is short. And then Southern California, you can ride basically every single day of the year. That had to have been like a dream come true too.
It still is. I mean, it's like 72 and sunny right now, and we're still in February. And if I were in Chicago, I was pretty nutty. I rode in some pretty rough conditions because I just love to ride so much. But it's perfect riding weather here, like
Yeah.
basically year round. So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
So going back to that first motorcycle, I had to imagine your parents found out that you were riding a motorcycle at some point. Did you get busted or like how did
Well,
that?
it's funny that you asked that because my neighbor, Mrs. Forkosh, she said to my mom, she said, Mary, it's so crazy. There's someone that looks exactly like your son riding a motorcycle. And so my mom said, Tommy, it's so strange. Mrs. Forkosh said, there's someone in the neighborhood that looks just like you riding a motorcycle. I'm like, that's crazy.
No
and
idea.
and so then a week later, someone else told my mom the same thing. And then I think my dad got a little suspicious. But one day my mom followed me out when I went down the alley and she saw me pull this motorcycle out. So my dad had one of his workers come and pick up the motorcycle when I was at school and I came out and the bike was gone. And I'm like, oh man, my bike got stolen. But I
Somebody
can't
stole,
call the
yeah.
police because it's I can't ride it. I was 14. I didn't have a driver's license. I couldn't do anything. So I get home and I see it in the garage with a big chain and a lock on it. And my
Oh,
dad's like,
geez.
you're not gonna ride that anymore. And so I went to my local bike shop. It was called the Pony Shop. And I went in there and they knew me pretty well because I was into bikes at the time. And I said, hey, I locked my bike in the garage and I lost the key. Can I borrow your bolt cutters? And they're like, no problem, Tom. So I went home and I cut the lock off the chain. And then I got the same master lock and I put it on there, but I had the key this time. So I was kind of back to my old ways. I'd sneak it out and occasionally ride it to high school. So again, I came out of high school, my bike was gone. I'm like, no, my bike's been stolen again.
What are the odds?
Oh yeah. So I go home and I see my dad had his guy pick up the bike and take it to a crusher. And so I got
Oh
home.
no.
There was like a milk crate size hunk of metal with a chain around it and then the lock. And so that
Oh
was the end
man.
of the '79 Yamaha Enduro.
That sucks, man.
My dad didn't play.
Yeah, yeah. So they neither of them were big fans of motorcycles. It sounds
Well, my
like.
dad actually had a 1960 BMW R60 that Petrolicious did a little feature on, a little 6-minute film. That he had that bike. He got out of the Marine Corps, and his Marine buddy just talked about BMW motorcycles constantly. And he had one, and when they would go on leave for the weekend, my dad would be on the back, which I have no comment about, but they would go out for the weekend and like he just loved this BMW motorcycle. So as soon as my father got out of the Marine Corps, the first thing he did was he went to Apt BMW in Chicago and bought for $600 a 1960 R60 that he wound up giving to me. And that was kind of the story of this Petrolicious film. And I still
Cool.
have that bike. But that
Nice.
bike was exactly what started. That's the bike I taught myself. I used to sneak it out when my dad was around and teach myself. He actually showed me that you could start the bike with a nail and you didn't need the key. You could put a nail in the key slot. So I put a nail in there and I pushed it down the street and taught myself how to ride on that 1960 BMW R60.
Man, that's wild. And now to kind of come back to full circle, you've got a couple of motorcycle stunts that I'd say are probably pretty famous under your belt. You got to combine kind of your day job and one of your passions.
Yeah, we did a movie called Paycheck. It was a John Woo directed film. It was starring Ben Affleck and Uma Thurman was in it. And in that film, there was a major motorcycle chase. Like we took 3 weeks to shoot it. And,
Wow.
It's probably, motorcycles in movies aren't that common. If you think about like the big picture, there aren't that many. There was Biker Boys and Torque. I worked on both of those, did stunts on both of those. And they just Tron. I think they shot Tron in Canada, so I didn't work on that. There's what they call runaway production, which I'm sure you're aware of, and they just go to other countries where it's cheaper to shoot. And so Canada is they give you a 40% tax credit. So if you shoot a $100 million movie, they give you $40 million. So your movie only costs you, if you're a producer, it costs you $60 million to make a $100 million movie.
Right. Yeah, that's I've heard about that where it's like, yeah, Canada's kind of a big place to shoot now or whatever. But yeah, you're right. There really aren't a ton. I mean, like the one that comes to mind is like, I think it's Matrix 2. They've got a big bike chase scene in there.
Yeah,
and then,
Debbie Evans was the stunt woman on that green Ducati 9. I think it was a 916, and that was a major scene. And I unfortunately I think that was a little bit before I got in the business, or as I was pretty new in the business. But there was a big motorcycle chase in that. It's just, I would say overall motorcycles are probably 20% of my overall stunts that I've done. Not
Okay.
that big, but motorcycles definitely got me into Hollywood. And I had a card of me on that 89 FZR 1000 doing like a 12 o'clock wheelie back in the day. And
Yeah.
I had shorts on, and guys were like, "You shouldn't have shorts on." So I went to Kinko's and like blacked out my legs, so it looked like I had jeans on. And then that card, I would go hustle sets in and be like, "Hey, can I give you my card?" And now 12 o'clock wheelies are like a dime a dozen, but back in like in 96 and 97, that was people. It kind of was a calling card for me.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there really is probably no like official like training school or certification about like stunt people. You just got to know what you got to know and got to be willing to give it a whirl, I guess, at least back in the day.
There are some stunt schools. I didn't go to a stunt school. I had that racing background, and I had
Yeah.
a lot of football background, and I, had some fights in my background. And so I felt pretty confident in the skills that I brought to the table. I definitely had to learn how to stunt fight with, not actually punch people, to actually
Sure.
miss them and make it look like a hit, and then take hits and make it look. That was probably the most important skill that I learned on the job. I mean, I would train with other aspiring stuntmen, and we would train fights and teach each other how to take punches and throw punches. And I was working, and this is kind of a funny story. I was working on a TV show called Vegas. It was back in the early 2000s or late 90s. And I was doing a fight scene, and the stunt coordinator asked me to work with a particular actor that was more kind of difficult and didn't want to stunt double because I can do all my own stunts. I'm follow up. And so I was working with him, and you kind of have to make everything their idea. And so
Right.
while I was trying to work with him on this fight, and the one thing I couldn't cover was that you don't need to get close with your punch. Like I couldn't really figure out how to articulate that and make it his idea. So throughout the course of the fight, he clocks me really good right in the jaw.
Oh,
And
jeez.
and he knocks me down, and I'm on the ground. I realizing that my teeth don't match up anymore.
Oh, God.
And he broke me. He did break my jaw. And
Oh, my God.
and the stunt coordinator came over to me. He saw it. He goes, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Well, my jaw's broken." And he's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "Well, let's finish the fight." And so we finished the fight I finished the fight with a broken jaw.
Oh, my God. Man, that's you got no fear and no reservations, man. But I guess that's kind of the way of it.
Well, it's just weird about fear is like, I think my body metabolizes fear differently than most people. I think racers, like, it's just a racer's brain. Like when I'm going 180 miles an hour, 160 miles an hour on a track, my brain slows things down, and everything goes silent, and it feels like I'm going 40 miles an hour, and I can make decisions that hopefully lead to a positive outcome. And the same thing with stunts. It's like that little shot of Keanu Reeves in The Matrix where he's bending backwards and the bullets are like flying by him. And
Yeah,
so
you go into bullet time.
that's literally like what my brain does in these situations.
Wow. Yeah, so let's talk about racing and track time a little bit too, because I know that you still are a big fan of getting on the track and stuff. Can you talk about your racing career a little bit, and maybe if you still do any maybe racing as a hobby now?
Well, when I was in college and I started racing, I started on an FZ in 89 FZR 600 that I got from Tom Houseworth, who is a world now. I think he retired, but he was a world superbike. He was Ben Spies' head lead mechanic. And I met him out of Willow Springs and bought this 89 FZR 1000. And in my first race, I think that thing probably got 18 or 20 feet in the air and turned to it. I low-sided it, it cut the ground a couple times, started flipping, and cartwheeled up in the air. I remember looking at like every penny I had in life right there as that thing cartwheeled through the air.
Jeez.
And that was my kind of inauspicious start to my racing career. But then I remember reading about the Yamaha Seika 2 Challenge. And I think Matt Miles raced a one event, a one-off for him. And it was a series that I think paid $5,000 to win a race and 4,000 for second, 3,000 for third, and then it paid back to like 10th place.
Wow. Okay.
I was blown away at the time, and the purse was like comparable with superbike purses, and so I read that and I was like, okay, this is really the only way I could race, because my parents weren't definitely behind me racing; they were definitely opposed to it. So I started in '93. I started racing the Yamaha Seika 2 Challenge on a bike that I got from a salvage yard for $1,300. A guy had tried to look like his bike had been stolen. I don't know why, but he took a ball peen hammer to the tank and the bike, and it was $1,200 or $1,300. I bought it from a salvage yard, and started racing that in '93 and '94. I was leading the points, and I got to a race, and I was going. Oh, the race was in Seattle at Seattle International Raceway, and I was based out of Los Angeles, and I was waiting for a motor that was supposed to arrive on Wednesday, and then it didn't arrive until Thursday night. And so I got the motor, drove through the night, Thursday night, got to the track about noon on Friday and put the motor in and got out for a practice. And in that practice, a racer had come around the last turn, which leads to the straightaway, which is a drag strip. And he hit his engine case on the wall, breaking his engine case, which unbeknownst to me, who was behind him, I didn't know what happened. But as he came around, I think turn 3 is the first left-hander. And so as I'm coming around, there's a big cloud of smoke, or dust really. And I didn't know what it was. And then as I got into the dust, I saw like 15 guys out in the outside of this corner that are all there. There was no corner marshal. I don't know what happened, but there was no corner marshal to let us know that there was oil on the track. And so it was like Hamburger Hill, and I crashed and I slid and I jumped up and I started running because I was watching guys get torpedoed on the side of the track because they're standing there and bikes are still coming in. So anyway, that was my Friday afternoon practice. And I spent Friday night rebuilding my bike and getting it back. So Saturday I start practice and I get protested because I'm leading the points, and someone had protested me because I had a 3-year-old bike and you had to have a current model year or a year older, not a 3-year-old bike. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't an advantage, but it was just, they wanted to sell more
regulation.
So then Saturday night, I go to a Yamaha dealer. I write down the VIN number of a new Seika 2 that was on the showroom floor. I go to Walmart or Home Depot, and I buy some die numbers and letters and a hammer and a grinder. And I grind off the old serial number. I tap in the serial number from the VIN number on the bike on the showroom floor. And then my bike was red and the new ones were black. So I painted the bike black. And I also went to Kinko's and I made a little VIN tag sticker that you see that's taped with like shipping tape to the frame. And that's exactly what I took, shipping tape. And I and created this on a Word document and made a new VIN tag. And so I got to the track Sunday morning after not having slept Friday night or Saturday night, and got to the track Sunday morning like, he can race, and I won that race on Sunday.
Oh, no way!
After being protested for a competitive advantage, and won the race, and not sleeping at all, and so that's how and then in '94 I wound up finishing that series with the number one in points. So I was able to race, I think 17 races were total that season, and I won 11 of them and never finished off the box. So it was a pretty good season for me in '94.
Yeah, and, man.
Started racing again, some pro races in '95, and then crashed at Road Atlanta. And the only thing that survived the crash was the rear swing arm and the motor. Everything else, the frame, the wheels, everything was tacoed. And so that was the end of my racing career. I moved to Italy with a girlfriend who was modeling, and just followed her around to some castings and just stayed with her for 6 months, came back from Italy and moved to California, and then started being a stuntman.
Man, I get the impression you don't really like being told that you can't do something.
It's funny. Someone wrote on my Facebook one time, if you want Tom McComas to do something, tell him he can't do it. And I was like, is it that obvious?
Hey, it's not a bad thing by any means, man. The determination, the ingenuity is real impressive. I got to tell you that.
I mean, it's just when I want something that, like, if I decide I just did a 5-day fast, and a couple of my friends started it with me, and I was the only one who finished it, a 5-day water only fast. And really, when I make a decision to do something, it's like there's no other option. Like, failure is not an option. It's just like, I'm going to go 5 days. Like, and after day 3, it really wasn't that bad.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You just get over the hump, and then
you get over the hump. Day 3 is really hump 4, and then 5 is actually, like, I could have gone 7, I think. But so yeah, I mean, that's just getting into stunts was so hard and so difficult. There were so many sets that I would hustle and not be able to find the stunt coordinator. He wasn't working that day, or there's a lot of rejection. And, I mean, my dad said if it weren't for stunts, I'd be pushing a shopping cart under a freeway under overpass, because he said it's the only job that I was suited for. But really, like, I'm really grateful to be in the position that I'm in, because, I mean, like, I don't go to work, I go to play. Like, you're going to go smash this car into that car. I'm like, copy that. I mean, that's my job. Some days are better than others, for sure. And but it's amazing that you can make a career out of getting paid to do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and yeah, I know we talk about motorcycles a bit, but you've had your fair share of automotive and car related stunts as well. And I mean, it seems like you kind of just do it all, no matter what.
Yeah, that's really what I've done, is because I primarily get my business from doubling actors. And if there's a script and there's 10 stunts in the script for that actor, and I say I can only do 6 of them, and then there's 4 others, so you have to get either another or 4 other stuntmen, and then maybe they'll like the other stuntmen better than they'll like me. So you really want to eliminate the opportunity for someone to come in and take your job. Yeah. So you got to kind of learn how to do everything. So fire, I've been set on fire, and ratcheted. Ratchet is when you, like, an explosion happens, there's a cable attached to the stunt performer, and that's a ratchet, and it pulls you backwards or pulls you forward, whatever the stunt is. And I was in front of a courthouse, and the courthouse exploded. A movie called Alex Cross. A guy fires an RPG into the courthouse.
Okay, yeah.
Courthouse blows up, and it launched me 54 feet forward, and I got to a height of 16 feet. I'm sorry, it launched me backwards. I was flying backwards, and I flew at a height of 16 feet, and then it started descending, and then I crashed, hit a UPS van, which was a SWAT van, but it's basically a repainted UPS van.
Sure.
Hit the side of that, bounced off that, and then, because the director, Rob Cohen from Fast and Furious, he wanted to make sure the audience knew it wasn't a dummy, that it was the stunt performer, that it was an actual human being. So then when I hit the ground, he wanted me for about 10 seconds to crawl around on my hands and knees, just to show that it wasn't a dummy. And the biggest thing about that stunt is you couldn't breathe the whole time I was on fire, because if you do, you breathe in fire, and that burns your lungs, and lung tissue doesn't regenerate. So I'd be on an oxygen bottle. I'd be dragging an oxygen bottle around for the rest of my life. So right before action, they came out, and they poured all this glue on. Glue is like rubber cement is what they use as fuel. And so there are guys painting me down. I'm in a police uniform, and they're painting me down. I have, of course, Nomex long underwear that's been soaked in fire gel. And I have a balaclava that's soaked in fire gel, and I have a mask, a neoprene mask on that looks like a human face with fake hair, and these little tiny Pyrex lenses, which as soon as they put the thing over me, they stuck this straw in my mouth, and I'm supposed to be able to breathe through that. And they told me it was going to be hard to breathe, and I tried to breathe, and I couldn't get enough air. And I thought to myself in that moment, I'm like, okay, a lot of people have done this before you, and they haven't panicked, because that's the closest to panicking that I've come in my stunt career. Because they put the straw through the mask into my mouth, and I couldn't get enough. I didn't think I could get enough oxygen. I'm like, I can't breathe. And my first instinct was to panic. And then I'm like, okay, don't panic. A lot of people have done this before you, and you got to be able to get the oxygen that you need from this straw. So I calmed down. And was breathing through the straw, and they kind of help you out to your mark, and they attach the cable to you, and then they paint you down with the glue, and then, like, all right, we're set. Stunts are set. And then, all right, rolling, and then 3, 2, 1, action. 54 feet backwards, think it was 54 feet, and hit the SWAT van, the UPS van, bounced off and crawled around. And then they yelled cut, and the fire team comes out, and they're like, get down, and you got to lay flat down, and they put you out with CO2 fire. Like basically, they extinguish the fire by taking the air away. That's what CO2 fire.
Sure. Okay.
So that's the fire stunt, and you have to learn how to do everything. If you want to double people, you got to be able to be comfortable doing whatever. And like heights, there was a J-Lo video, music video, and we rappelled off I think it was the 16th floor of this building in Hollywood, and came down to the ground. And it's just like, you just got to be able to be comfortable with whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a track day or a race sound kind of like literally like a walk in the park.
Well, I mean, I just can't wait for COTA and MotoGP to come back to America. And Aprilia, I have an Aprilia 26 RSV4, and
Yeah.
and I'm going to ride the racer day with Aprilia on the Monday, and then I think there's another track day on Tuesday. So I got 2 days coming up at COTA, which is an amazing track. It's a fast flowing track, but it's a really, really fun track.
Yeah, that I remember being there and seeing that long straightaway at the very start, and then you kind of have that uphill turn into a downhill, and then into a bend into the right. I mean, that's got to be, if you can nail it, that has to be so fun.
It really is fun, and it's also, you can come in so hot because the hill is so steep. And like that's a place where I actually get to pass a lot of people, because you can come like your brain doesn't really comprehend how much speed you can carry into basically a hairpin turn after a front straightaway, which is exactly what that. And it's a downhill hairpin, like you said, but you can brake so hard, and you have so much traction going up that hill that it's actually pretty fun. On my Instagram page, there is a shot of that exact thing from COTA, and the guy who owned a store called Moto Club, his name is Victor. He was on an Aprilia also, and he was actually shooting video. He was like, "Let's see who breaks first." And then I outbrake the guy. I didn't know who it was, but I outbrake him. He was like, "Don't try to outbrake Tom McComas."
Man, that's not a bad reputation.
You want to check it out? It's just it's a fun video from COTA.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, I mean, obviously that's coming up, and you're going to be doing that. Do you do track days kind of just for fun all year round?
Yeah, you can. And I ride my motorcycle on the street a lot. Don't tell anyone, but I have the slicks from my last track day on my RSV4 now, because I have 2 sets of wheels and just haven't bothered to put my street tires back on. I don't ride in the
It's
rain
California.
anyway.
It's fine.
It's California. Like, they got bigger problems than to worry about guys with slicks on motorcycles. But I'm glad thanks for reminding me. I have to order tires for COTA today.
Yeah, there you go. Do you ever get to do any off-road riding, or is that kind of is it mainly street and track now?
I think I've had 5 KTM EXC 500s, and they did. I desert riding. I love desert riding. I'm not a big track guy. Like, I'm still not comfortable in the air. Like, I'm comfortable going 200 miles an hour on like 3 feet off the ground, but you put me 16, 30 feet in the air, I'm like, the implications. I'd much rather crash at 180 than I would at 30 from 30 feet in the air, 50 feet. Some of those guys, it's insane what the supercross guys are doing nowadays. When I came out to California, they were all the stuntmen were dirt bike riders. No one was a road racer, and they were all like, "You're crazy." And it's funny because everything is relative. Whatever you're used to doing, you don't feel as crazy. But it was funny. On Deadpool 2, I got a call to go out to Vancouver to double Ryan and ride this scooter. And so I get out there, and there's the local stuntman. His name's Leif, super talented rider. And he's had this Vespa, I think it was a 150, for a little while, like practicing with and getting ready for this thing. And so they bring me out there as a backup double and to shoot simultaneously when they would shoot different units and they needed a guy on the Vespa.
Sure.
They bring me out there and they're like, "Tom, can you wheelie a Vespa?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I've never tried." And they're like, "Yeah, well, try to give it some, see what you can do." And so I'm trying. I can't get this thing to wheelie.
Yeah.
And I'm really pulling my hair out. And it's a tough situation because I'm like the only American there. And, if I loop out the scooter, they're like, "Oh, great, we brought an American in to crash the scooter." Like that's
Right. Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
the
The
dialogue.
reputation's on the line.
That was exactly what would happen. And so I'm pulling my hair out, and the mechanic, who was not in the film industry, he was like just a Vespa. He worked at the local Vespa shop.
Just a
And he
guy.
was
Yeah.
hired
Yeah.
by the motorcycle, by the movie, to be the mechanic. And he comes over to me and goes, "Tom, do you want to know what Leif did?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd like to know what Leif did." He goes, "Leif has 12 pounds of pressure in the rear tire."
Oh my God.
Really? And I was like, I can't believe I didn't think of that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
let's put 12 pounds of pressure. Next thing I know, like we're in an airport and I'm wheeling this thing as long as there's runway in front of me. Like that's on my Instagram too, where you can, my Instagram's at Action Director. And
Yeah.
so it's wild. That mechanic saved my life on that one. And it's like, because once he told me that, I was like, oh yeah, no problem. I could wheelie the thing at will. Like
Yeah. That's
tire pressure is, especially on the little 12-inch rim, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, well, that's kind of an interesting point you bring up. Is it like probably something that a lot of people don't think about, especially probably with vehicle stunts, is that you probably have to have a fair amount of mechanical knowledge and know how the bike or the car works or something like that to know what it can and can't do. It's almost like I have to imagine maybe like being like a test rider or a test driver or something like that, where you have to like really intimately know like how the vehicle functions, right?
Well, it's interesting. But your point is exactly correct and on point. It's because a lot of times we get handed vehicles that are really, really like not perfect vehicles, like old kind of jalopies, and like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah. Something that's
unfortunate. Like
cheap to
the
blow
stunt
up. Yeah,
department, we're kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the film industry, and so
Mm,
you got to figure out a way to make these things work. And in that
yeah,
case, there was nothing wrong. It was a new Vespa. I just didn't think to lower the tire pressure in the rear tire.
sure.
But but there's many cases where like right now I have an M3, an E46 drift car that I train with, and one
Okay,
of the things I haven't done is put an angle kit on that car because like you don't get an angle kit when you're doing stunts in movies. So
sure.
like I have to learn within the confines of like a stock ish car. Did add a set of rear calipers in the back so I can really good lockup, and I have a drift brake in it. But it's a stick, and other than that, it's very stock. And other than I have a wrap on it, but other than that, it's pretty stock. And so
Yeah, that's
you got to learn how to drive whatever they give you.
kind of going back to bikes a little bit and combining with stunts though. I mean, you've doubled for some big name people and stuff. And do you ever get to like talk bikes with some of these actors? I mean, I know that there's a lot of celebs who ride, so I mean, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
it's
maybe some
funny.
common
I know
ground.
Brad Pitt's a big. I've never actually worked with Brad, but I know he's a big motorcycle guy. Ben
Yeah.
Affleck is super into motorcycles. He asked me when we were on a movie called oh God, Sum of All Fears. We're shooting in
Oh yeah.
Montreal. He was like, Tom, what bike should I get? And I'm like, well, I'm a racer, so if you're gonna ask me, and it was '99. I think it was '99, and I was like, I would get an R7. And he was like, okay, let's get it. And I'm like, I said, you got to have a racing license, and it's really difficult to get this bike. He's like, well, can you get one? I'm like, well, I can try. And so I get him one. And then, oh no, that was in Vancouver. And then fast forward a few years to Montreal, we're at a bar. And, he goes, I go, Ben, what do you think of the R7? He goes, I hate that thing. He goes, you want to buy it? And I go, well, how much? And he goes, he throws out a number. And I go, oh, it's too rich for my blood. And he throws out another number. I'm like, all right, I'll buy it. So the next morning, I'm all kind of groggy. I'm like going through what happened. I'm like, I bought a motorcycle last night. So we got home, and I drove over to his house and gave him a check, and I got that
Picked it
outside.
up.
And he
Nice.
didn't like it. He's a bigger guy, and I think he's probably like 6'3".
Oh really?
The R7 is a cramped motorcycle, and first gear is good for like 80 miles an hour. So
Right.
like you really gotta like slip the clutch to get going, and it's not a fun city bike. It's just not,
Mhm.
especially if you're a bigger guy. It's not. So I don't blame him for not liking it, but I still have that R7.
Okay. Yeah. So you got the Aprilia, you got an R7. You got anything else in the garage?
You know, it's funny when I talk to a girl and they're like, "Well, how many more?" And they find out how much of a nut I am for motorcycles. They're like, "Well, how many motorcycles do you have?" I'm like, "Well, how many pairs of shoes do you have?" And they're like, "Oh."
Well
And
then.
so I have way more than I need. I actually bought a hanger at Hawthorne Airport because Southern California garage space is like impossible to find. And
Okay.
so about 10 years ago, I wound up buying a hangar where Steve Rapp he had kept his plane, and I kept a bunch of my motorcycles in there. He's like, Tom, you got to get your motorcycles out. I'm like, why is that? He's like, they're evicting us because they want to sell the hangar.
Oh, geez.
So I called the airport, and what hangar didn't seem like it was that much money. It was actually $107,000 for a 40 by 1,600 square feet in like Southern California.
Yeah,
seemed kind of like
no matter what. Yeah,
no brainer at the time.
Yeah.
So I bought the hangar, and or at least they don't sell federal space. So I have a 40-year ground lease on a hangar at Hawthorne Airport, which they're closing Santa Monica Airport. So all the hangars in Hawthorne became suddenly very desirable, because if you live on the west side of Los Angeles, your choice is Van Nuys Airport, which is deep in the valley, or Hawthorne Airport, which is right next to LAX. So I bought a place in Hawthorne Airport, and now Harrison Ford just bought a hangar there, and now he's a resident at Hawthorne Airport. So
no way. Yeah, because he's a pilot. Yeah.
He is a pilot.
Yeah.
And a motorcycle guy. It's also, and I ride mountain bikes a lot. And one of the guys I ride with, his name is Curtis Keene, and he's kind of like the Michael Jordan of the sport of mountain bike racing.
Oh, wow.
And so Harrison and Curtis were on a mountain bike ride, and this guy sees him, and he gets all starry-eyed, and he comes up, and Curtis is like used to it because the Harrison Ford is Harrison Ford.
Sure.
He goes to Harrison. He goes, do you have any idea who you're riding with? That's Curtis Keene. And Harrison got a kick out of it because he didn't recognize who Harrison was. And
right.
And then he was like, wait a minute. And he's talking to Harrison. And so it's just funny. But yeah, Harrison's my guy and a motorcycle guy too, and a pilot.
Yeah. Another Chicago guy too, actually.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Harrison Ford is originally from Chicago somewhere. I can't remember, a suburb or something like that. So, but yeah, man, it's I got to say, Tom, you live a hell of a life, and I appreciate you sharing it with us and talking a little bit about motorcycles, about anything, a little bit of everything else. Anything maybe that we didn't cover about bikes or anything that you think is fun to talk about?
For me, riding was like, I can't live without a motorcycle. Like, that's just how it is. I love motorcycling that much. And if I'm having a bad day, you get on your motorcycle and you can't, it's like with stunts, you can't think about anything else because your life is on the line. And the same thing with motorcycles, like you're forced to be in the moment and you can't think about other nonsense in your life. So motorcycles are the best thing I've ever found in my life. Like I was a little bit of a problem child when I was young. And then once I found the motorcycles, it straightened me out, and I had a goal, which was riding my motorcycle and fixing my motorcycle and racing my motorcycle. So with that goal, I didn't have time to mess around and play and get in trouble. So, and like, unfortunately, that's the reality of motorcycles. Like, you can get seriously hurt and killed, and I've lost friends. And so if motorcycling isn't as important to you as it is to me, then I'm going to dissuade people from riding, because I just think, you find out when one of your friends crash, they're like, "Oh, I'm never riding again." Or like, as you're crashing, you're watching your bike. "Oh, that's going to be $400. Oh, that's a pipe. That's going to be $600." And
yeah.
Estimate, you're building up the estimate in your brain. And so there's two types of riders, like those people that live to ride, and then people that just kind of do it as a fun hobby. And I think it's too dangerous to treat it like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I mean, I haven't really thought about it that much that way, where it's like, it is kind of easy. I mean, relatively, to get a motorcycle, right? It's not easy to ride a motorcycle proficiently. And maybe those people that are, that want to do it for the gram or for the looks or whatever. Yeah, that's probably not the best way to get in it, because it really does require, 100% of your focus. And that's honestly what I love about it too, is that you kind of can put all your problems away and just focus on that. And just, when you're kind of locked in and you just enjoy the ride and all that. And yeah, that's kind of a good reality check, though. You know what I mean? So, but to kind of go back to the lighter note of things, is that, yeah, it is one of the best things in the world, man, for sure.
It's funny, as we're sitting here talking about it, I'm thinking about my motorcycle in my garage downstairs. I'm like, I want to go ride my bike.
Man. Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. So I'll let you get down to it and get on a ride. But Tom, thank you so much. And I hope we can run into each other again soon, man.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Thanks for listening to Driven to Ride. Interact with us and check out full unedited conversations, photos, interviews, video interviews, plus other goodies on YouTube or Instagram at Driven to Ride Podcast. Or you can check us out at driventoridepodcast.com. And make sure you leave us a rating and review from wherever you get your podcasts, too. If you have an idea for an episode or a guest, or you want to invite us out on an adventure, email us, hello@driventoridepodcast.com. Driven to Ride is wholly owned by Flint Rock LLC, made possible with help from Matthew Miles, and written, hosted, and produced by me, Mark Long. We'll see you out there.